Hi, this is Charlie Mato-Toyela with another quick tips video from bluebearflutes.com. Just going to give you a little bit of comparison contrast, kind of the shortened version, if you would, of another very interesting, very lengthy video on how to play and how to make the traditional 6-hole Native American flute. So I'm going to show you today two of the flutes from that video. These two pine flutes that we made during the playing video. If you notice, they have the same fingerings, but because of the inside diameter, they play a little differently from one another. And one of them is about a traditional size, the other one's a little bit larger size, and I'll play this one for you first. So plays just like the elderberry, my old flute that I like to call it, that I was playing for you in the beginning of this video. This pine flute was made with the same pattern as this other pine flute, except for the size and diameter of the outside of this is the size of the inside of this. And I believe that may be where some of the confusion came from. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please feel free to watch any of our videos on how to make and play the traditional 6-hole flute, or demystifying the traditional 6-hole flute, as we call it. So this is a modern 6-hole flute. This is what we call it in all of our videos and online and the website, everywhere else that you ever hear me discussing a modern 6-hole flute. This is what we're talking about. This flute plays the way that I would say about 99% of other flute makers' flutes play that make 6-hole flutes. And I don't mean that as a bad thing, and once again, this is just my idea, my opinion, my belief that I've come to after making flutes for 30 years, that this is the way things are. This is a modern and that's a traditional that I just played for you. But the whole purpose of this video, this quick tips video, is for those of you who are either buying a flute playing book that is written for 6-hole flutes, 6-hole Native American flutes, or if you've bought a 6-hole flute from another flute maker and you either want to buy one of our 5 or our 6-hole flutes. This video is just really to give you some tips and pointers on how to play our 5-hole flute like the modern 6-hole flute. So this modern 6-hole flute, once again, we made in a video on making the traditional versus modern 6-hole flutes. And I'm going to play it for you, and I'm going to show you one little thing about it that may help you out. So it plays, but to play the minor scale that you play on all other flutes, or any flutes really, Native American musical instruments, you have to keep your finger covering this 1, 2, 3rd hole. There are other combinations that you can do by keeping your finger covering the bottom hole, the 2nd hole, and so on, but you can do that with any flute. Keeping your finger covering this hole all the time makes it play the minor scale. And many of you are saying, well, that sounds great, and it does sound really great. However, there's a fingering here that's not being used, and in case you buy a 6-hole flute book, or once again you have a flute from another flute maker, I want you to understand the differences between our flutes and how to play ours in the way that everybody else's plays. You know, I'm not about gaining popularity here so much as I am just telling you my belief. But anyway, so this fingering right here plays a half-step note, we call it, which means that it's a half-step lower than the fingering above it when you keep that fingering closed. It sounds crazy. And once again, any of you that buy flutes from me, you really don't have to worry about this, but just something that other flute makers make their flutes like this. So this half-step note is one that you can play on our flutes, on any of our flutes. But I'm going to show you first how it's used on a modern 6-hole flute. So very easy to play the note, and I forget because I don't play these types of flutes, but anyway, it gets confusing. And then it gets really confusing why in the world you would have a hole there and not play it in the first place. But for those of you that want to learn how to play that half-step note on one of our 5-hole flutes, it's very simple to do. And I say it's very simple to do because I play half-step notes on this thing all the time when I play modern music. Traditional Native American music, you don't need that fingering on a modern 6-hole flute. You don't need it on a 5-hole flute. You don't need it on any other flute, because traditional Indian music didn't use that fingering in that same way. Just people that are wanting to play songs like Amazing Grace and what have you have found a use for it. You can still play it on this flute. So there's not a hole there, and it plays the minor scale properly. And that's how you play that note, and I'll play it slow for you. But if you're buying one of our 5-hole flutes, which are as traditional, has been around as long as 6-hole flutes have, if you're buying one of those and you're also getting a flute playing book or a music book or something like that, or you're wanting to play modern music with your 5-hole flute, it is just as easy as it is on everybody else's 6-hole flutes. And then I'm uncovering this hole, covering this one back up to play the half-step note. So you can play these flutes chromatically if you want to. You really can. The way they were originally designed, about 3,500 years ago, they didn't really care for chromatic scales too much, I don't believe. And most Native American music doesn't use any chromatic scales. If they do, they play maybe one note out of a chromatic scale. Usually I am the kind of person who I like to half cover holes, but there are fingerings just like I showed you. You can play the alternate fingerings if you like. I'm going to include in my instruction sheets from now on how to play that hole, because many of you once again have asked, how do you play that hole? And as I said, 5-hole flutes have been around as long. If they've been around longer than 6-hole flutes, it's probably only by a day. In the grand stretch of time, thousands of years, it's really hard to pinpoint any of that. But 5-hole flutes have been around as long as 6-hole flutes. And the modern 6-hole flute that requires you to keep a fingering, where our 5 holes are missing a fingering there, plays as many notes as this flute here does. As a matter of fact, so thank you guys very much for watching our videos. I hope you enjoy them and you get something useful out of this. Like I said, look for the little bit of information to be included in our instruction sheets from now on. And by all means, if you have any questions, always send me a message through our website, bluebearflutes.com, or on Facebook, which is usually Blue Bear Flutes or Blue Bear Arts. Here on YouTube, of course, it is Blue Bear Arts. And as always, we look forward to hearing more from you again soon. You guys help me make these videos, and we greatly appreciate you and your business. Y'all take care. Thanks again.